right, let's come to order. First, we'll take attendance. So if you open the roll.
Senator Craig.
Here.
Senator Pekarsky.
Here.
Senator Peake.
Here.
Senator Locke.
Here.
Senator Van Valkenburg.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. And welcome back, everybody, to our first meeting post-crossover. For those of you that are in the House, we go in the order on the list. And so we're going to have, first up is going to be Runyon, followed by Campbell, Coulson, and Clark in that order. Simons, Cohen, Cernvassen, you guys are at the end. So that's 14, 15, and 16. So that might be a little bit. If you want to go do something else, come back, check in, just letting you know. But first up is Delegate Runyon. And Delegate Runyon, we are dealing with House Bill 675, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so go ahead and take it away.
So House Bill 675 reestablishes the Police Department at Virginia School for the Deaf and Blind located in Stanton, Virginia. That is a residential school for those folks that have those challenges in their life. And they currently have 60 couple children that range in the age from pre-K through 20 years of age. So again, it's a residential program. This is an interesting fix to what's going on. The school was included in the enabling legislation through 2006 for sure that allowed for a police department along with other higher education institutions. It was inadvertently excluded in 2016. They were left off that long list. We figured it out in 2023. And so the police department had been from whenever it started, a century or more ago, up to last year. Senator Bell was chairman of the trustees. He figured it out. They addressed it on a temporary basis. Now we've got a legislative fix. And there's a small fiscal impact. There's budget amendments in to allow for that. And again, I think it's important to recognize this is some of our most vulnerable citizens in the community. These children don't have the ability to protect themselves or even recognize the danger. And so a police department for this campus, and it's not a small campus, 60-some children, but originally the buildings held as many as 500. So we're spread out over a geographic area. I do have Superintendent Trice and her security chief available to answer questions or testify if you like. And I also have a constituent, Titus, and his mom and dad that are residents of Augusta County, and Titus attends the school, and I believe he's a first grader. I believe I went to kindergarten graduation last year with him. So happy to answer any questions and happy to have folks available to testify as you all, as at the committee's pleasure.
Let's have Titus come up first, and everybody else can go behind him.
Good afternoon. I am Michael Alleman. My husband, Scott Alleman. This is Titus Alleman. Titus is not only deaf, Titus is blind. So he is in a very unique category of being both deaf-blind. The reason that we're here today is that we want you to understand the value of why this police force is necessary. Titus cannot hear a shooter. He cannot see a shooter. Pat's going to give you all the details about the school, but I want you to see and I want you to understand he is your most vulnerable constituent. We are attorneys. We own our own law practice. When we found out that our son was deaf, we sold our home in Virginia Beach, relocated to Stanton, Virginia. We drove down here today so that you could meet Titus. He likes to show off. He'd very much like to be up in your lap, actually. But the reason that we're here is because it's so imperative. There are 64 students who attend VSDB. Titus is a preschooler. He's 4.5 years old. Titus has a full-time nurse, Becky, who goes to school with him every single day. The constituents that he has are deaf in his classroom. There are 2 blind children as well. Titus uses an adaptive stroller. One of his other classmates is also an adaptive stroller. These are students who cannot protect themselves. They cannot rely on anyone else but a police force. When we started at VSDB, it wasn't an issue. We had a police force. They signed to Titus. They help us get Titus out of the car. They help us put Titus back in the car. It wasn't an issue until last year, as Chris was explaining to you. And so now what it comes down to is we need your help. We need this police force back. We need to know that when we drop our son off at school with Becky, his nurse, and his classmates who are deaf, his classmates who are blind, or in his case, both, he's safe. and he's protected. The only people that can do that are Nick and his colleagues who are trained police officers. So we're asking that you all will put this bill through, that you will protect our son, protect these other deafblind children, and make sure that the disability community has equal protection. Thank you, guys.
And then you said you had the superintendent here?
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to talk in support of this bill. My name is Pat Trice. I'm the superintendent of Virginia School for the Deaf and the Blind. This is my director of security, Nick Hall, and I want to talk to you just briefly about VSDB. So VSDB, first of all, is a state agency. It is the unicorn of state agencies because it is the only one that is a pre-K through 12 school. We are located in Stanton, Virginia, on 73 acres. I want to make sure that you understand when you think of a school, when you hear me say VSDB school, it's not like a public school where there's one building. It is like a very small college with 73 acres and 20 buildings. So, and it is not fenced. So it's very much similar to maybe like Randolph-Macon College. We are 2 blocks from Stanton. The difference with VSDB is that we serve students, it's about 65 students. We serve students on the continuum of being deaf, so hard of hearing to deaf, low vision to blind, and as you see, students who are both deaf and blind. VSDB does serve the most vulnerable population in Virginia for these students. But I want you to also understand what it looks like when we are managing even our drills. So I want you to imagine that your child or your neighbor or your grandchild or your niece or nephew is at VSDB. And all of a sudden, you have a catastrophe on campus, whether it's a shooter, whether it's something, anything that endangers these children. These children are highly supervised at VSDB, but they are also on the playground. They are navigating between buildings. Most of them are using canes. The deaf-blind students are learning to navigate just like Titus is now, even at his age. The deaf students cannot hear somebody saying, run, get down, take cover. They are very visual. They're going to look at all this chaos going around and have no idea what's going on. It doesn't matter how many drills we have. The blind students are going to be hearing and not have a sense of where they're going because the panic will set in. The other issue is that probably about 85% of our students are served for more than one disability. That means some of them may be intellectually disabled. Some of them may have autism. So when we have our drills, the blind students, even with that kind of noise as a fire drill or evacuation drill, that noise is very hard for them. They are very sound sensitive. The blind students don't know and are still learning how to do the drills and where to go. But it's because they are compromised, sensory impaired, it's very difficult for them. So it's very important that we provide the highest level of safety for these students, and we owe it to the families who entrust VSDB to take care of their children. They are with us during the week, and they go home on the weekends. But it's very important that we provide a higher level of service to protect the most vulnerable students. I want real quickly Nick Hall to talk to you a little bit about why we need that police force and why we have that first. Oh, okay. Are you good?
So we've heard finance, which is the appropriations over here.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Come visit. Come visit.
Next up, we have Delegate Campbell. This would be House Bill 66. So welcome, Delegate Campbell, and go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a substitute.
You have a substitute,
Ma-
counsel?
I'm sorry, there's not a substitute. I looked at the wrong, I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. HB 66 is a school safety bill that clears up some confusion around fire drills in public schools. This was brought to me by the fire marshal in my district, who discovered that the Code of Virginia related to fire drills and the statewide fire prevention code were in conflict. This bill clarifies that the drills will be conducted in accordance with the statewide fire prevention code. In a fire, a school would be extremely chaotic, and I think that it's important that our children are prepared for this type of emergency. The statewide fire prevention code was written by the experts who deal with these types of emergencies every day and know how to prevent them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would respectfully ask that you act favorably on this bill.
Is there anybody before the committee gets into it? Is there anybody that wants to speak for or against? Senator Locke.
Mr. Chairman, my answer would be that yes, they are, and this doesn't change the frequency or anything like that, but there was confusion because of the way that the codes were written in conflict on how that they would conduct the drills. So the school system, the Department of Education actually was in favor of this, so there would be one uniform code that they would refer to.
Yeah, I guess my question is, well, I don't understand what this would mean functionally. So, like, what would it literally mean for a school, like, through the year?
So there, this would all reflect again back to the statewide fire prevention code, which lays out. They consider this building a Group E, which is not. It's based on the occupancy of the structure. So this would lay out for them exactly how many fire drills that they have to have and the frequency of which they have to have them throughout the year.
So follow up, would that be more fire drills or less fire drills?
There should be the exact same amount of fire drills. They can certainly do more fire drills if they want to, but this would help them to make sure that they have one on a consistent basis, on a monthly basis, to make sure that the kids are prepared.
But don't we do that anyway?
Well, we're supposed to do that, I would say, Mr. Chairman. But again, there was some confusion because if you look at the language in our code, it was very cumbersome. It said that there shall be at least twice during the first 20 days of school in each session. The pupils may be thoroughly practicing their drills. Every public school shall have at least 2 additional drills. So again, the numbers were there, but they were in conflict in the way that they were written, and it made it confusing for the school system. So this doesn't change anything other than except for it directs everything back to the statewide fire prevention code.
I guess, can somebody come up and talk about what this would literally mean for for our school?
And a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
So you
Senator
said
Peake.
you're turning it, Delegate Kimball, this is taking it to the fire department?
No, it actually.
Fire code, who's mandating it now? The school boards?
No, it is mandate, the statewide fire prevention code and also our code are what, the Code of Virginia are what the schools are to go by. But because of the way that they were written a little bit differently, there's confusion as to how frequently and at what times they need to have these fire drills.
All right.
Stacy?
Mr. Chairman, Stacey Haney, School Board Association. To answer your question, the code in 22.1 currently requires 2 fire drills in the first 20 days of school, and then 2 more fire drills over the course of the school year. So 4 total is what's required under current law.
So how would this change? What would this change?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Chairman. I can't find the statewide fire prevention code
Counsel,
online, which is a problem that I think if principals can't find it, their lawyer can't find it.
Counsel found it? Question mark?
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. First, just to address the statewide fire prevention code, finding it, it is, the actual statewide fire prevention code is not within our state code or the administrative code. It's made, I guess, by a separate code-making entity, and so it's available online elsewhere. As the delegate said, it designates public schools as Group E, and it requires in this code, the separate code, that Group E have monthly fire drills, and that the first be conducted within the first 10 days of the school year. So it is external.
So that would be more fire drills.
Yes, significantly
I
more.
can't support
So
that.
this is essentially bringing what's in our code into conformity with that, with what's in that external document, the statewide fire prevention code.
Who makes that code?
Mr. Chair, so the, I guess, website or the overall code-making body, it's the International Code Council is the website that it looks like sort of houses this, this code, and it is, let's see, it's from under Virginia DHCD. It's mentioned other websites in connection with the State Building Codes Office, but the sort of website and entity that houses it is the International Code Council. But there is that cross-reference in this bill that cross-references section 2794 of our code, which is, it sort of generally references the authority of the statewide fire prevention code, but it doesn't set out the provisions of it. That is only available externally.
Okay, thanks. Senator Craig?
Yes. Okay, so right now we have 2 within the first 20 days. Then we have 2 during the rest of the year, so a total of 4. And then this would say we would have 1 every month. Honestly, in my city, one city has 52 schools and the other one has way more than that. I don't think our fire department, they're short-staffed right now, could do that, honestly. I mean, safety first, but I just don't foresee this.
Mr. Chair. May
Delegate
I
Campbell?
speak to
Yeah.
that? I would say to the senator that this is supported by the Department of Education and the fire safety programs. And again, all of this is the intent to make sure that we have our children as well prepared as possible in the event of an emergency. Hopefully it would be something that they'll never have to use, but a situation like that, we feel like the experts who wrote those codes, we could appreciate wanting the frequency of it for the kids.
Senator Peake, then Senator Pekarsky.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and then delegates, obviously, so the Department of Education looked at this and felt like we needed more.
We do have the support of the Department of Education, yes.
Well, who brought the bill to your attention at the risk of causing, I mean, it passed,
No,
it passed 98 to 0, so did anyone speak in the House in favor of this?
We did have people that spoke in favor
Who
of it.
spoke, Mr. Chair, who spoke on your behalf in the House?
The fire departments and the fire chiefs, the fire marshals.
How many of, Mr. Chair, how many did you have speak in favor of this in the House?
I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that I don't remember exactly.
But
how
1 or
many.
2 at least in the fire?
Yes,
Mr.
we
Chair,
did.
excuse me. And so the concern is, obviously, Mr. Chair, Delegate, we don't have the witnesses here. It passed 98. No, there must have been a good reason behind it, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Senator Pekarsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the patron bringing this forward. Safety is important. I will say, as somebody who has run fire drills in a school, they can be highly, highly disruptive to the educational environment. And I think people would be surprised to see just how quickly kids catch on. And they've got pretty good memory as to what they need to do. And we have lots of students who have sensory needs and other needs to whom this not only disrupts the day, but this can disrupt the day before, the day after, just the anticipation of it. So if I don't, if we don't hear maybe from some folks from the school systems, I am inclined to say that I have not seen a need for this, so.
Sure. Well, I'll just say that I'm not going to support doing more fire drills. We already do a lot of fire drills, and almost every bill that comes before this committee takes away my time as a teacher, which is really frustrating. And I know it's well-intentioned, but that's just so you know why I'm not going to vote for it. Senator Peake?
Chairman,
Yeah.
Can we take this by for a week?
I mean,
I don't know who our witnesses were. My mic's not on. But we got several meetings, don't we?
yeah.
Take-
Sure.
Take it by for the week, Delegate Campbell. Get some of these fire folks for us, because it's not looking good right now, okay?
In schools.
And then school people, need the school people. Find some school people, get in touch, find out what their position is, because you got some, three educators right there.
I don't mind doing that. That's fine.
thank you.
We'll take it by without objection. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
yeah.
Need some education people.
Delegate Carlson is next with House Bill 777.
Hello, is this on? Yeah, sorry. Hello, Chair and members of the committee. I'm presenting to you House Bill 777, which came out of the House unanimously, although as I'm sitting here, I'm realizing that doesn't mean a lot.
That's fired. Oh, no.
This is my first presentation, so I'm trying not to get nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it is 777. That's a lucky number, so I'm hopeful that we can get it passed. The purpose of this bill is to expand educational protections that we offer for children when they enter foster care to include when they exit foster care for the remainder of their school year. To phrase it in a problem, I'm an attorney for the Department of Social Services, and so many times when we're talking about children transitioning out of foster care or returning home, what they're doing with their school year is a primary factor in our decision making. We have actually kept children in foster care to make it so that they can stay in their school for the remainder of the school year. Because the law as written allows you, when you enter foster care, to stay in your division or be registered in the division of your foster care parent. So this would extend that and would make it so that it would go for the remainder of whatever your existing school year is. With that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Senator Locke.
First in front of the Senate.
Front of a Senate committee? Mm-hmm. Wow. That's interesting. And that sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. And it got out of the House 99-0?
Yes.
That doesn't mean anything over here.
I have learned that.
I think she saw that.
I will say, the Virginia Education Association supports it. The Virginia Poverty Law Center supports it, and Voices for Children supports it.
That usually doesn't mean anything either. But it sounds like a good bill. So I'll move to report, that we recommend reporting.
There's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 777. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that bill is recommended to report 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Carlson. Next up is Delegate Clark. Delegate Clark has House Bill 1473. Take it away.
Awesome. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I have HB 1473. This will require the Department of Education to develop, in collaboration with the Department of Health, a fentanyl education and awareness informational one sheet designed to promote awareness of the dangers associated with the prevalence of fentanyl and provide essential information on fentanyl overdose prevention and preparedness amongst high school age students. Here in Virginia, the prevalence of substance use disorder diagnosed doubled for our youth in 1 year, an increase from 3.7% to 7%. Overall, in the state, we saw a 35% increase in overdose deaths between June 2021 and June 2022. Fentanyl deaths increased 20-fold since 2013, and just in 2022, over 1,900 Virginians died from fentanyl. As we're hearing more about the increased presence of opioids, specifically fentanyl, across our country, it is important to engage with and educate the young people about the dangers of fentanyl. Students in our schools need to have access to this knowledge and resources to make informed decisions about their health and well-being. By providing this informational one-sheet document publicly in schools, they will be able to benefit our students, our staff, and our parents because it will provide information on signs and symptoms of fentanyl overdose, the danger of fentanyl use, and how to report a overdose, the prevalence of fentanyl and how to avoid it, and the statistics relating to fentanyl use, such as health risks, overdose, and deaths in our Commonwealth. So I do urge the body to please support HB 1473.
Is there anybody that wants to testify either way on this bill? Senator Locke.
Delegate Clark, is there a fiscal impact to this?
There is, wait, hold on, let me just read it to be sure. There is no fiscal impact.
Okay. I move that we recommend reporting.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 1473. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes 5-0.
Awesome, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Is Delegate Bennett Parker here? Yeah, she's next. So this is House Bill 1039.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee. This is House Bill 1039, and it has been endorsed by the General Assembly's School Health Services Committee. The bill allows public schools to adopt and implement policies for the possession and administration of undesignated glucagon in accordance with guidance outlined by VDH. The bill was brought to me by a constituent whose son was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes so that all students with diabetes can have access to a life-saving rescue therapy, and they've come to Richmond today for this bill. Children with diabetes who take insulin need access to glucagon to address an event of severe hypoglycemia or low blood sugar. Severe hypoglycemia can lead to unconsciousness, critical brain damage, and can even be fatal. Currently, if a student is suffering from severe hypoglycemia and they don't have glucagon on them or theirs has expired, schools have no emergency rescue therapy on hand to save the student's life. Virginia schools are already permitted to have on hand several other undesignated rescue therapies, including epinephrine. This bill expands the tools they can have in their toolbox to save children's lives. I want to emphasize that this bill is permissive. It gives schools the option of stocking glucagon, but it would not require them to do so. And the bill is also supported by the American Diabetes Association and the School Nurses Association. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody that wants to testify in favor of the bill? Come on up.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the subcommittee. My name is Reagan Moore, and I ask that you support House Bill 1039. My youngest son, Gabriel, standing next to me here, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in April 2022, and I know from personal experience how important having undesignated glucagon in schools really is. It is a matter of health equity. Severe hypoglycemia happens very quickly, and a school nurse or other authorized employee only has seconds to respond. In fact, in Illinois, a school nurse named Jennifer Jacobs made a challenging decision when a student who had diabetes came to her office during lunch with a low blood sugar. The nurse gave the student food and glucose tabs, only for her blood sugar to continue to drop. The student then fell to the floor and became unconscious. This is when Nurse Jacobs had to make a difficult decision. She knew the student needed a dose of glucagon, but this particular student didn't have the drug in her supplies. However, another student did. And in the state of Illinois, glucagon was not a drug that schools kept in stock for nurses to give following a standing protocol. Nurse Jacobs ultimately risked losing her license to save that student's life. She then changed the law in Illinois to add glucagon to a list of other drugs that can be given per the standing protocol. This challenging decision should not be one that a nurse or other authorized employee in Virginia has to make. Supporting 1039 would ensure that children of Virginia are receiving the same medical care they need when they are away from home. For parents like me with a diabetic child, the fear of them having an emergency situation at school is constant. The bill seeks to give parents and caregivers like me peace of mind, knowing that the school has access to this life-saving drug. This measure will also ensure that nurses in schools across the state can continue to put the lives of their students first by implementing best practice for the health and safety of every student with diabetes. Thank you for your time.
Anybody that's against the bill? All right, anybody in committee? All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 1039. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes 5-0. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Delegate Hernandez, then we have Keys Gamara, Cole, Henson, Green, Price, Lawfer, Sullivan, Simons, Cohen, Srinivasan, Early. That is our order. So if if you're down the list and want to come back. We do that all in the fall.
Okay.
Yep. Delegate Hernandez, take us away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is HB 407, a bill that seeks to help families in Virginia more easily access the child care subsidy program. I think we know here in Virginia that too many families are struggling to find quality, affordable child care. And I'll say as a dad to two young girls who are in child care, I definitely get that. And so all this bill does, it says that if a family receives assistance through Medicaid or WIC, then they are categorically eligible for assistance through the child care subsidy program. And I will say if this concept looks familiar, that's because the General Assembly approved categorical eligibility in the last budget. And it just since then has made it easier for state agencies to process applications for the subsidy program. This bill would just codify that improvement rather than let it sunset in the budget. And so happily, saving the last part for best, this has no fiscal impact. So with that, happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Anybody in the committee?
I move to report.
A motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 407. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Delegate Keys-Gamarra. She has two. Is she here? Not here. Delegate Cole, you're next then.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have before you HB 253. HB 253 is a simple bill with a simple objective, protect and enshrine the First Amendment rights of students in the Commonwealth. HB 253 would allow students to speak and participate in school board meetings, provided they do so in accordance with the sign-up procedures of the respective school board. And so you may ask, why do we need this bill? Well, currently in Lynchburg City Public Schools, the school boards have silenced students from E.C. Glass High School. They will not allow them to speak at meetings, and they have denied students the ability to use grants, won by the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, and now they have denied a $5,000 grant from Dick's Sporting Goods to be used for volleyball equipment. So these students want to utilize this money that they've applied for. These students want to speak at school boards, and they're being prevented from speaking. And so this bill would just make sure that the First Amendment right is protected through our code. And, you know, I wouldn't be a preacher without leaving y'all with a quote from the scripture. And Jeremiah 22:3 says, "This is what the Lord says, do what is right and just, and rescue from the hand of the enforcer the one who has been denied." So I hope it will be the will of the body to report this to full committee.
Senator Pekarsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to ask the delegate, just to make sure that this bill does not allow just an unnumbered full access to, sorry, trying to get my brain working today, full access for students, but it has to be in accordance with the already laid out. That's great. And I will say, it really makes me sad to hear that there are school divisions that are not, allowing our kids to come up and speak, because I will tell you, if you really want to change education, it's the kids who actually know what is happening, and their voice has so much impact. I'm very supportive of the bill.
Senator, I will say I did have council draft up an amendment because I do think it allows for unlimited signing up under the current law. And so, Delegate Cole, I talked to Delegate Cole about it a little bit earlier too, so if you can pass him one.
I move adoption of the amendment.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. And so this just does say that the school board can still have limits on time, place, manner restrictions that would apply to everybody else. Because I do think it was under the sign-up provisions, but not the back end.
The time frame.
Yeah. Senator Peake.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I represent Lynchburg, and I remember the controversy. But yet, your bill does not address the controversy at all, Mr. Chair. Is that correct?
It will not address the issue of them actually utilizing the money, but it will address the aspect of them having the ability to speak before the school board where they are attending.
Thank
Senator
you,
Peake.
Mr. Chair. That's fine.
Okay. Is there anybody that wanted to speak in favor or against? Do in favor first.
Hi, my name is Penny Page. I am here today on behalf of Queer Town Hall of Lynchburg, Virginia. The students of EC Glass High School applied for and were awarded a $10,000 grant to provide resources to students in their schools for LGBTQ kids. As a graduate of that high school 20 years ago and someone who's been back to visit several times, I can tell you these resources are very needed and are life-saving. And I'm not the only one who thought so. This got the attention of national press. The Washington Post and other national outlets covered this, and the remarkable accomplishment of these kids, which are things that many adults couldn't do getting this grant. But when they went to their local school board, not only were they told they could not use this money for this purpose, not only were they insulted and demeaned by their school board members, but their school board tried to prevent them from speaking during public comment. Now, there, as Delegate Peake remarked, there are a lot of problems with this process. But I believe, like Delegate Cole, that kids so smart, kids so aware of what's going on in their community and with such compassion for each other, if they were allowed to speak at their school board meetings, could help prevent problems like this that have such an impact on their communities and their schools. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Monica Hutchinson with Rise for Youth, and we support the bill. You know, at the end of the day, young people absolutely deserve to have their voices heard, especially when it comes to their education, direction of their education. They absolutely deserve to be heard by their school board, who should be taking everything that they say into account. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are directly impacted by all of the decisions that is being made. And so by not allowing young people's voices to be heard, we are doing a disservice, not just to that young person, but also to everyone who needs to hear their voices, respect their voices, and value their voices. So for that, I ask you to please support this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jay Deck with the Virginia Education Association. We too support the bill. I think it's important that everybody should have their rights and have a voice in what's being done at the school board level. And certainly students do know what's going on in their schools, and they're probably the best spokespeople for it. So that reasons we support the bill.
Hello, my name is Dr. Emily Yen. I'm not currently employed by any organization as a lobbyist. However, I'm speaking here today in my capacity as a Virginia resident. I strongly support this bill. Students are interested stakeholders in public comment periods. These and are acutely affected by many of the policies that are being discussed at meetings. I think it's important to encourage civic engagement amongst young people, and by denying them access, it denies them a further ability to participate in civic engagement. So I strongly support this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, those opposed.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dan Davies on behalf of the Family Foundation. We do have some concerns with this bill. Obviously, school boards are required to carry out a large responsibility in their community. They're accountable to their voters, or in a few instances to those who appoint the school board. But Richmond, the legislature, trying to take control of and micromanage how the school board would conduct their meetings in this way, we think is a little inappropriate. Maybe the members of the committee would support the folks that, the students that have been spoken to that tried to testify and were not able to. But there could be any number of reasons why a school board would want to limit that. I haven't seen the amendment, but I think we're just taking away too much local control from the local school board that's accountable to the local citizens, and allowing the students to do this versus parents or other responsible adults in the community that could speak to these issues that are coming before the school board. So appreciate the committee's time listening to the concerns.
I think, yeah, you should, yeah, yeah, Senator Locke.
My question to you, as a General Assembly, at any time dictated to local governments or including school boards what policies they should adopt?
Of course,
Ever at any time?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Locke, of course, we determine any policies here at the General Assembly, and it's all, we sometimes get pushback and have to find that right balance between what the General Assembly passes as laws and allowing local discretion, and that, across the board, any number of issues that this committee would deal with, to county, cities, and towns, there's always, more legislation trying to find that right balance. We just think this bill would go too far on this particular issue.
Senator Peak?
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Chair. And I like your amendment, which I think's going to make me vote for this. But based on your amendment, is it your understanding that a school board would be able to do like what we do here, 15 minutes for, 15 minutes against, something along with that? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, Senator Peak, I just would mean that the students would get to have their say within the framework that the school board set up that's considered reasonable.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't understand why we would say that school children would not be able to testify at a school board meeting. Doesn't seem to make much sense to me, so the purpose of the bill seems to be good, as long as they don't have to sit through 1,000 people say the same thing and stay till 2 or 3 in the morning. Is that your intent?
And that was what we were trying to fix.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. Move to report.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to report, or to recommend reporting House Bill 253 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. All right, that motion passes 4-1. Thank you, Delegate Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Delegate Keys Gamara, you're up. So if you've got 2, you want to just take them in order? Pick your poison.
Oh, let's see, I'll take whichever one is first in my notebook.
There we are.
I think that's 166?
Sure, 166, House Bill 166, take it away.
Right. House Bill 166 is a simple measure that directs the Virginia Department of Education to provide a resource document for all schools that wish to establish a composting program at their school. This bill is designed to support experiential learning and will provide needed information on funding sources. Typically, I've visited a number of schools where some have composting programs. Oftentimes, it falls on the PTA or what supports they have from parents. This would allow all schools to have the same information. It is permissive. It is merely designed to provide information and assist those schools that would like to enhance their curriculum in this way.
Let's real quick see if there's anybody that wants to testify. Is there anybody that wants to testify in favor? We're a quiet crowd today. We're a quiet crowd today. Anybody against? Senator Peak, and then we got Senator Locke.
Delegate, I'm reading your bill, and it looks strikingly familiar to a bill that I had that just requested the department to develop just guidelines to post on its website, non-mandatory, about out-of-zone attendance in a specific school district that died a miserable death in this committee. I'm interested to see what will happen with this bill. Thank you.
Senator Locke?
It wasn't a miserable death.
It was a quick one.
Well, sorry.
It was a,
okay. I'm not familiar with your bill.
Delegate, my question would be, can't schools do this anyway without there having to be something put in the code to do it?
This is merely for the Department of Education rather than mandating anything through the code, ma'am, I believe. And the reason that I'm bringing this is this would direct, in the sense, you're correct, that we are certainly directing the Department of Education to do this. But I did look at the purpose of the Department of Education, and their language says They are to advance equitable and innovative learning. It is the administrative agency for the Commonwealth's public 132 school divisions to support and improve teaching and learning, set high expectations for all students, and promote student safety, well-being, and health. Now, I understand that we certainly don't want to overstep our bounds. The problem is that we have a number of schools that simply don't have the same resources as other schools. So my goal is to provide that information, and they can still make the same decisions that they typically would.
Well, I'll tell you that my hang-up is that I don't think the Department of Education is doing the things that's already on its list in many ways. For example, I had a teacher reduction training bill last year that asked them to pull together a report about how localities are teaching trainers, and we haven't gotten it back yet. And that's putting that out in the ether so y'all can run with that, because we're going to be talking about a lot of bills that do the opposite of that today. And so I'm a little worried about their capacity, if I'm being honest with you. So it's not about the policy so much as my worries about the capacity of this department to handle kind of what's already on their plate. That's kind of my hesitation.
May I speak to that?
Yeah, of course.
It's my understanding there is another state agency that deals with composting and environmental issues. That information is available through them. It's the only reason I'm talking about the Department of Education is that that is the organization that has been deemed by this legislature to provide guidance to our schools. So I don't think they have to reinvent the wheel. They just have to get access to information that's already available and make that available to our schools. I'm happy to accept a friendly amendment, Senator.
Are there any motions?
I'm also happy to pass it by for the day if you'd like for me to make some corrections.
We'll give you a week to do that. Will be nice.
I certainly appreciate that.
Without objection. All right, 168. Yeah.
Let's see.
We were nice to Delegate Campbell too. We'll extend a courtesy.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, 168.
1 second. All right. This is in a similar vein, requires the Department of Education to develop and make available to each school board a resource document containing guidance and best practices regarding homeless students, specifically regarding decisions for how students are to be treated, wraparound supports, available best practices, how they can be best served and protected, particularly those homeless children who are at risk for human trafficking. This arises out of a personal experience as well as discussions with staff members who did not feel that they had the direction they need to serve homeless students. In my regular life, I serve as a guardian ad litem, and I've worked with a number of schools who had to deal with homeless students. And unfortunately, our current law says that they are to receive equivalent education as those students who are not homeless. Unfortunately, it does not provide guidance with respect to specific needs for homeless students.
Anybody that wants to testify in favor or against this one?
Good afternoon again, Monica Hutchinson with Rise for Youth. And when it comes to housing insecurity,
In Virginia, housing insecurity is a major issue. I, for one, live in Henrico County, the greater Richmond area, and housing insecurity is a very large issue here. And our issue, Hampton Roads and other places where a lot of our most vulnerable families already live. And we know that ensuring that young people have the support services they need to be in school, to have all of the resources that is necessary. We've even had discussions here during this session on ensuring that we can address absenteeism and other things for our young people to be successful in school. And so when it comes down to it, when your most basic needs are not being met, that can lead to a lot of trauma, and housing insecurity leads to that trauma. A lot of our mental health crises, housing insecurity is at the base of that, is at the root of that, not just for adults, but also for young people. And so, you know, when it comes to our students, ensuring that those wraparound services are there, ensuring that we have guidance for all of our kids. So, because it shouldn't depend on where you live to ensure that you're getting access to the best resources. And as of right now, there really is no standard. And I know there's supposed to be, but there isn't. And so for those reasons and many others, like I said, at the end of the day, to just address, you know, to protect our students, protect our kids, protect our families, and ensure that we are addressing that trauma. Please support this bill, pass this bill. Thank you.
Hi again. Penny Page on behalf of Together We Will Henrico, supporting this bill.
Senator Pekarsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While the delegate said that this bill is similar to her prior one, I actually see it in some ways as critically different. And I think this is a very unique population, a very vulnerable population of students. And I think this would be very useful information. You know, the Department of Education can't have everything up, but I think this would help our most vulnerable kids, and I'm very supportive of it, and I would move to refer.
Second. Motion and a second to recommend referring House Bill 224. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
That's 160.
Great.
168.
Yeah. Did I say the wrong number?
You said 224.
Oh.
Yeah.
Take that back. There was a motion and a second to recommend referring House Bill 168. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that's 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Henson, because the next one's 224, so that's why I got 224 in my head.
We're doing 224.
We're doing 224. That's C, you know?
Yep.
Too many numbers in my head. Go ahead, Delegate Henson. Take it away.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, House Bill 224 improves the mental health awareness and suicide prevention training implemented by school boards for teachers and related personnel so that they may be equipped to specifically address the needs of high-risk student groups enumerated in this bill, including students bereaved by suicide, students with disabilities or chronic health conditions, students with substance use conditions, students experiencing homelessness, students in and out of home settings such as foster care, and LGBTQ students. Mr. Chair, I urge the committee to support House Bill 224.
Is there anybody that wants to speak for the bill? Come on up. And let's set it for 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, Kat Atkinson with Voices for Virginia's Children. We are in support of this bill. This really helps focus our attention on our most vulnerable students, and it allows teachers to be able to meet the students where they're at. Please support this bill.
Thank you. Narissa Rahman with Equality Virginia. We're here in support of House Bill 224. We think it would help fill some gaps that exist in current statute by making sure that we are meeting requirements and educating folks on youth that are vulnerable to suicide risk, as the delegate pointed out, youth who are bereaved by suicide, youth with disabilities, youth experiencing homelessness, and LGBTQ youth. We encourage you to support the bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Schaefer. I'm here as a parent from Chesterfield County, and I'm in support of HB 224. I have been asked to share the story of a parent and friend who is unable to attend today because she is with her children. These are her words. My 12-year-old son lives with depression and anxiety. He is in treatment with a talk therapist. Last year, during the difficult transition from elementary to middle school, he was the frequent target of bullying, which increased the severity of his mental health struggles. He was admitted to the Virginia Treatment Center for Children for 4 days after threatening to end his life. The school doesn't have a robust knowledge of how to discuss suicide prevention with students and among staff. We need these discussions. There is a mental health crisis among Virginia's youth. I strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Monica Hutchinson with Rise for Youth. When it comes to, once again, our young people's mental health, in our discussions with young people across the Commonwealth, from Southwestern Virginia, Northern Virginia, doesn't matter, mental health is one of the things that they have all said they need more support in from our schools, and so ensuring that our teachers, staff, and everyone else has the necessary tools to help our students is necessary. So please, for those reasons, please pass HB 224. Thank you.
Hi there, Penny Page of Together We Will Henrico supporting this bill.
And those in opposition. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Daniel Davies on behalf of the Family Foundation. We do understand mental health is an issue that needs to be dealt with, but do have some concerns about this. Teachers already have a lot of other things going on, piling more and more training on teachers, and potentially keeping them from what they need to be doing in the classroom and academics. Additionally, we need to address every student that has mental health issues without necessarily, I don't know that we're helping ourselves by trying to put people in categories and like this bill would propose, and just let's meet the kids' mental health needs, but not in this way. Thank you.
Senator Peake.
Yes, if we took out on line 18, identify as LGBTQ+, would the Family Foundation still object?
I don't know for sure. I think we need to address these individual cases of mental health issues. Again, I think we're piling a lot on our teachers, and additional training that was required here. And again, our teachers in the classroom need to be instructing and dealing with classroom issues, not necessarily trying to address all these mental health concerns that could be more adequately addressed by professionals in a different setting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that your problem's with the underlying code section then, because the underlying code section already requires that we go through the training. But Senator Pekarsky, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to actually point out the same thing. Employees already have to go through a mental health awareness training program. My question around this is more with subsection B. It says that the school board may contract with the following departments to provide such training, but if they don't, I don't know if, what is your thinking around who would?
Maybe we should have the school boards come up
I
and
would
answer
very
that.
much like, yes, how it's done now.
Is Tom here? Can someone come up and speak to how this is actually implemented?
Okay,
So, Mr. Chair, I will say the overall goal of this bill is if school boards have already adopted a mental health training, it's just making sure that the underlying high-risk student groups are identified in that particular mental health.
I think we're going to take this one by.
Okay.
And let's do it temporarily, real quick. Let's take it by temporarily, and then we'll come back. So without objection, we're going to take 224 by temporarily. That would give us Delegate Green, and then Price, and then Laufer, and then Sullivan. That is our next four. So Delegate Green, you have, what do you have? You have 90, House Bill 98.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Today before you, we have a bill that would direct local school boards to accept participation in the JROTC program to qualify as satisfaction of the physical education credits. Currently across Virginia, many school divisions, including several localities in my district, participate in qualifying JROTC programs for PE credits. But this bill would make the option available across students in the state of Virginia. This bill comes before me from constituents in my district that are currently able to participate in this course satisfaction. My idea is to make this option available to all students in Virginia. What this bill would not require is students to opt out of PE. If a student wishes to take PE while enrolled in JROTC, they can still do that. Further, the bill does not exempt students from health, sex ed, or driver's ed courses. My intention of this bill is to offer students as much choice and availability in their schedule as possible. Currently, school divisions around Virginia accept participation in football, soccer, basketball, and even gym memberships as satisfaction of PE credits. This bill would simply add the list of JROTC eligible to this program to satisfy those credits. Mr. Chairman, I look forward to hearing your thoughts and questions.
Is there anybody here that wants to testify in support? Is there anybody that wants to testify in opposition? I guess come on, yep.
Hi, Stephen Marcoux with Arlington Public Schools. We oppose the bill. It creates some issues for us. While we appreciate that the students still have to take their health and wellness requirements, we do that as a combined course. We don't offer partial credit, so logistically it becomes difficult for us in terms of how we would go about separating out phys ed from health on our end for this. So, this option exists in other divisions. So this would simply put a mandate on everyone else. We would prefer just keeping things as they are now. Thank you.
Real quick. So just other divisions currently do it because they can do it, and you're saying, but a lot don't because of the scheduling piece. Is the
I can't speak to the reasons why every division doesn't do it,
yeah.
but
That's your
among the reasons we don't do it.
Got you. Yes, Senator Peak.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Green.
Yes.
Did you have, Mr. Chair, Delegate Green, did you have witnesses testify in the House?
No, this bill came through unanimously on both.
Mr. Chair, did anyone oppose it in the House?
They did not, and I was just as surprised as the opposition today as anyone else.
And Mr. Chair,
Senator Peak.
Delegate, this came to you through a JROTC program that you represent?
Through some students and school board members in York.
All right, thank you.
So did you have a question? Oh, did you have a question? No?
Thanks.
I thought you did.
No, I can speak. I mean, my question around this was actually what the person who came to speak in terms of the schedule, because I'm looking at this from a high school that has 3,000 students in it, which are several of my high schools. And I think if I voted for something like this, I would have to hide when I go to my children's events. Because this would be a logistical nightmare. And I do understand what the intention is. I just think in a school system like mine, this would just, it would not work. I don't know how this would work.
Okay. Could I address the Senator's concerns?
Please. Yeah, please.
Yeah, some of the high schools aren't quite as big as 3,000. However, I believe Gloucester, which is in my district, is approaching that. They allow this. They also allow participation in basketball, gym memberships, soccer as counting as your PE credit. So the programs are done, and this would just allow other school jurisdictions to participate in this. And there's a big, I would say there's a big groundswell of kids getting involved, and we want to make that easy for them too. We want to get them off the screen and participate. And I know JRTC in the York schools is very, very popular. We have large programs and it gives kids a positive things to do. So.
Yeah.
Thank you. One more question, sorry. So is this training core, are these classes during the day or during a school day or after school? What does that look like? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Some of them are both, and there's probably some people who have participated in the room in JRTC who might be able to answer that, but some of them are both. Some of them are before school, some of them are after school, and some of them, depending on the schedule, with a flexible schedule, they have things in there, so.
I guess maybe I'll finish up if is anybody else. Yeah, I'm going to vote no today because it doesn't allow them to. It makes them do it, which I do think I oftentimes like to bully localities myself, but this is one of these places where I think because there's a lot of different localities with a lot of different school sizes and needs, I'm not sure I can wrap my head around this, so I'm just going to let you know I'm going to vote no today. We do just recommend a report, so. But with that, yeah, Senator Peake.
Is it? Can we change on line 224 the shall to a may?
That's what they do today, though.
Can they do? Is that how it is
Yeah, that's
now?
what it is today.
So is that?
We could, if that would make it agreeable to this group today.
Mr. Chair, yeah, is it possible that some just are not, are concerned that they can't do it, Mr. Chair?
I'm fine with saying, I'm fine with shifting it to a may, and then if that gives them a little bit like we did with the Stanley bill, right? Hey, you guys can deal with cell phone. I'm fine with that. You good with that?
I am.
All right, so I hear Senator Peake offering an amendment on line 224 that would strike the shall and make it a may. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so that's 3-2. So we have the bill before us as amended. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, move the report.
As amended?
As amended.
In a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend referring as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No. No.
All right, so that motion passes 3-2. Come to full next Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Find out if it makes a difference.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Next is Delegate Price. Delegate Price has 2 bills. Delegate Price, do whatever one you want to do first.
Okay. I would like to start with House Bill 603.
Cool. All right, House Bill 603, take it away.
Okay, so Mr. Chair and members of the committee, we've heard from the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and conversations with experts, parents, and students themselves that their number one concern for our youth is the mental health. But when I inquire what students are taught about self-esteem and conflict resolution, the answers actually vary based off locality. We also note through research and data that the lack of some of these principles has played a part in the increase in violence, particularly youth gun and gang violence in some of our communities. So House Bill 603 would direct the Board of Education to develop mental health curriculum guidelines for the Board of Health to approve that would infuse age-appropriate mental health instruction and learning into our current public health curriculum. As we are battling increasing rates of self-harm and violence amongst our young people, the hope is that starting young and keeping it consistent throughout their educational track, students will learn and employ healthy coping mechanisms to help them grow up happier and healthier. And this would be, just based off of some of the other social and emotional learning models. And that's the bill. We're hoping that students all across the Commonwealth will be able to learn and employ these skills.
All right, let's take testimony before we hear from members of committees. Or do you want to ask a question? Yeah. Okay, Senator Peake.
Chair, it might be for staff.
Okay.
How does 603 and 224?
I can answer that.
Yeah,
One of them is around a teacher training that you have to do. The 224 is around teacher training that you have to do at least once as a teacher, and it's just teacher facing. This one is about physical and health education and curriculum for students. That's the
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there people who want to speak in support? If you do, come on up. We'll set the timer at 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing this. My name is Pat Finner, and representing Newport News Public Schools and Falls Church Public Schools. And mental health concern, of course, is a big concern in Virginia schools and of the 2 school divisions that I represent. I want to thank Delegate Price for working with school representatives in fashioning this legislation to fit within the current SOL program, not require an additional course. We think this will support our students, and we support the legislation. So thank you.
Monica Hutchinson with Rise for Youth. We support this bill. Like I said, mental health in our young people when it comes down to it, and ensuring that our young people learn safe ways, positive ways to express themselves, to also recognize, when they need to go to a trusted adult and all the other things, right, is extremely important. Conflict resolution, all of these things. And when it comes to also dismantling the school to prison pipeline, ensuring that our young people feel empowered to have discussions around their mental health. They feel safe to express themselves. They feel safe to know that they have trusted adults they can come to for those things. We know will also go to help dismantle the school to prison pipeline for many different reasons. So for those reasons and others, we ask that you please support this bill. Thank you.
Kat Atkinson with Voices for Virginia's Children. We're in support of this bill. This bill focuses on the most overlooked parts of the mental health continuum prevention. By developing a mental health curriculum that is embedded in physical health, we are shifting the narrative that mental health and physical health are independent of one another, when in reality they both fall under the same umbrella of health and wellness. This is a great bill to begin moving forward in that way, and we really hope that you support this bill. Thank you.
Equality Virginia, we support the bill.
Anybody opposed? Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Daniel Davies on behalf of the Family Foundation. We do oppose the bill. While mental health education is important, this would also encompass a lot of sensitive issues. And how and when such discussions of some of these more sensitive issues take place should be closely monitored by parents. We do have some of those issues that are covered in family life education, but parents have more control there. They are able to opt their child out of these. While I believe the original bill did say it went all the way down to kindergarten, while this bill does not, it still would allow this at very young ages, and we do have some concerns with that as well. And also, just this is going into the physical and health education that I realize does touch on mental health within this code section, but this definitely does take it and puts more of the emphasis of this code section on mental health as opposed to the physical and health education, which is still, we have physical health issues too as well with obesity and other issues in the schools. And this would definitely take this code section and put a lot more of the emphasis on the mental health side. And again, there's no parental opt-out. We also do have concerns about the bill requiring social emotional learning, which is a relatively new and controversial teaching method. So those are some of our concerns. We appreciate the committee's consideration.
Senator Pekarsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I spent a lot of time with students over the last 4 years in particular, and the conversation around mental health was constant in every single meeting I had with kids. And they asked for this. They asked me for this repeatedly as a school board member. They are aware, they want to learn, they want to have opportunities to discuss their mental health. I am going to be supportive of this bill, and if we're ready for a motion, I will go ahead and give you one, Mr. Chair. All right, I move to report. And I'll second Senator Watts.
All right, there's been a motion to recommend referring House Bill 603 in a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. That motion passes 3-2. All right, next up is 6:15.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. There exists a significant disparity in representation and participation in STEM educational tracks and STEM fields. For example, just 37% of STEM bachelor degrees are awarded to women, just 7% are to Black students, and 12% to Latino students. The numbers are even lower for women of color and pretty abysmal for those in the disabled community and the LGBTQ+ community. This could be due to a variety of reasons. So instead of assuming, what we would like to do with House Bill 615 is direct the STEM Education Advisory Board to intentionally and thoroughly look into what can be done to bridge the gaps and also increase participation in STEM by underrepresented groups amongst our students. And in order to best have those conversations, the second thing that House Bill 615 would do is to increase the number of people on the board, specifically adding members from other existing councils and boards that work on behalf of underrepresented groups. And they're listed in the bill, but it's the Virginia African American Advisory Board, Virginia Asian Advisory Board, Latino Advisory Board, Council on Women, Virginia LGBTQ+ Advisory Board, Office of New Americans Advisory Board, and Virginia Board for People with Disabilities. And I just would like to note, especially in the area where I am, our Commonwealth is on the forefront of technological and medicinal breakthroughs, and it's really important that this workforce not only be ready, but also be reflective of the communities that they would work in. And I think this would open up pathways to success for that pipeline of career-ready students that we need for these fields.
Anybody that wants to testify in support of the bill? Anybody that wants to testify against the bill? All right, come on up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Daniel Davies on behalf of the Family Foundation. We do have concerns with this bill. Already the board is pretty large, 16 citizen members. Expanding it to the full 23 that the bill would have here would make it bigger than any of the committees here in the General Assembly, and probably one of the larger boards. I wasn't able to look at the membership of all the boards that we have in the Commonwealth, but it's getting pretty large. Last year, the board canceled 2 of their 4 or 5 scheduled meetings, and making the board even larger would make it even more difficult to make quorum and find a good meeting time for everybody. Similar to the remarks on one of the previous bills, I think there's broad representation on this already. I don't know that we want to start calling out specific groups and adding them to this bill, but just oppose the bill. Thank you.
All right. I like this bill. I'm going to vote for it.
Mr. Chair, I like this bill too. I'm going to move to report.
And then a second. All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 615. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes 3-2 as well.
Thank you, Senators. Have a great day.
Thank you, Delegate Price. All right, next we got Delegate Laufer. Actually, no. Delegate Henson, let's come finish you real quick. I'm sorry. All right, back to House Bill 224. And Delegate Pekarsky, or Senator Pekarsky.
All right, Mr. Chair.
I didn't mean to insult you. I didn't mean to insult you like that.
I'm not that sensitive. I move that we refer the bill. And I'll second with Senator Locke.
Okay, there's been a motion. Anybody? All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend referring House Bill 224. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. All right, that motion passes 3-2.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Henson. All right, now we have Delegate Laufer, followed by Delegate Sullivan, Simons, and Cohen. Those are our next 4.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. HB 1277 seeks to address the daycare workforce shortage. This bill was brought to us by many providers, including the Virginia Business Roundtable for Early Education. This bill simply allows applicants and volunteers an opportunity to start working with supervision while they await their complete background checks to be processed. The applicants and volunteers have already received qualifying results on a fingerprint-based background check, and they again would be supervised. And this bill allows daycare centers the flexibility to address their employment issues with this change in the Virginia Code, which is permitted under federal law.
All right. Anybody want to speak in favor? Come on up. Yeah, we'll put 3 minutes on. Actually, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. They all don't
Morning,
have that
Mr.
much
Chairman.
time.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Matt Benedetti representing the Virginia Child Care Association. The delegate did a great job of explaining what the bill does. We desperately need this so we can staff up. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm Angela Wirt, Executive Director of Child Care Aware Virginia. We strongly support this bill. The workforce needs this to get teachers in classrooms. The background check process is probably the biggest barrier to that, and this bill will help alleviate a huge burden contributing to the child care crisis. So we strongly urge your support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Jenna Conway, Deputy Superintendent for Early Childhood Care and Education. We strongly support this bill and stand ready to implement it, and I can answer any subject matter questions on this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Randy Pearson on behalf of the Virginia Promise Partnership and the diverse group of stakeholders, of providers and parents and advocates that we represent. We strongly support this bill and thank Delegate Lawfer for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Emily O'Brien on behalf of the Virginia Business Roundtable for Early Education. We also strongly support the bill and urge you to support it as well. Thank you.
Is there anybody that opposes this? Can I get a motion? All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 1277. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes 5-0.
Thank you so much.
All right, Delegate Sullivan. We got House Bill 121.
Yes, Mr. Chair, 121. Good afternoon. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, when I was a kid, I don't recall anyone being allergic to anything. But for whatever reason, whether environmental, whatever it is, a lot of kids with allergies these days, a lot of parents worried about their kids with their allergies in school. I was struck by Senator Pekarsky's comments earlier about kids coming to her asking for new things, new instruction. This bill came to me from some high school kids who were concerned that they were not learning enough about how to react to a friend or someone near them in school suffering from an anaphylactic reaction. So they took it on themselves to do something at McLean High School, which turned into a real nice pilot for McLean High School, and FCPS is thinking of taking it countywide. But the idea for this bill really came from these kids at McLean High School. It is a simple bill. I know you see a lot of these, and the chair and I have talked a little bit about this. But you know, the sort of the scope of the problem for me is underscored by the fact that as I was researching this, I realized and I found that the DOE now requires this. The problem is significant enough that DOE requires school health staff annually to get new training in anaphylaxis, because of course this problem is so widespread, and we certainly don't want to lose any kids. So. What this does, after long conversations with the superintendents and the principals, this bill evolved into one which asks the board to include in the grade 9 and 10 as standards of learning, which I've looked at, and they're woefully thin on anaphylaxis, a program for kids to learn more about how to recognize them, what kind of things people can be allergic to, what the treatments might be. Although I hasten to add, it is not something that's going to teach kids, you know, to give treatment. It's how do you find someone, who do you find, how quickly do you need to act. So it's a bill that I think addresses something both apparently kids are themselves concerned about. I've had parents come to me since I put this in, parents of kids with bad allergies that are glad to know that it's possible kids in school will be learning more about this. And so I think it's an important bill, and I hope the committee will look favorably upon it.
Is there anybody that wants to speak in favor of this? Is there anybody that wants to speak against this?
That's a sign of peace in the valley, Mr. Chair.
I don't know about that. Yeah. I have a lot of anxiety about the shall in this. Delegate Sullivan, would a may be okay with you? Because my anxiety is, that they go through the SOL revision process, and then, it's this big multi-year process that they go through to do these things, and I worry about us preempting them on that. I recognize that we literally just did that in another bill, but I do get a little anxiety around that, and especially because I'm not a health expert, and so I want, would a may being the push to say, hey, we would like you to consider this be good for you?
It's not my habit to negotiate with the chair.
You can say no.
Well, at least that way, that would be a no to that, Mr. Chair. I understand. My understanding, by the way, is that and I don't know for sure what I'm about to say, but I'm saying it in good faith. I believe these SOLs are sort of soon to be in the queue for being redone. I'm looking for something maybe a little more forceful, like maybe we could leave the word shall in there and say shall consider, or shall move quickly to consider, or something, including, or at the next available opportunity, so, to conclude. Because I think, candidly, I think the idea is good enough that if they consider it, they'll do it. I think there's that kind of appetite and concern about this out there. But I'd like it to be, if nothing else, a strong signal that we think they need to think hard about this.
How about this?
I do want to emphasize that the superintendents and the principals were all perfectly happy with this. The words on the page are partly their invention.
That goes back to my previous comment during Delegate Green's bill about, how about this? What if we in lines 13 said, shall consider during the next standards of learning revision process? Or something like that. Council, what does that make sense, Council? Shall consider during the next standards of a learning revision cycle? Council?
Mr. Chairman, so they are on 7-year cycles, and I believe the last revision was 2022. So it would be a long timeline, but that would be feasible to amend it to have that language.
I don't know enough about it to know how big a deal it would be for them to amend their SOLs in this minor but very important way before 2000 and what did we say? 9? 2009?
Council, Council, question for you. Because they just redid it, we would be forcing them to go through the whole process again with curriculum materials. Is that correct? Huh? Ryan?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, not necessarily. I think the bill would just be silent on that. I can think of 3 or 4 different bills this session that do require amendments to the health SOLs, so maybe that's enough to get them to take them out of order. But otherwise, I think the bill is just silent on when they would implement this particular training.
So follow up. You're saying they could just wait until the next cycle anyway, because the bill's silent on that?
I think technically they could just wait till the next cycle, yes.
I think I just heard council say there have been 3 or 4 other bills like this, so what's a fourth?
I would be comfortable if we said shall consider during the next election, during the next revision cycle. That's my comfort level.
That's 7 years from now.
5.
I'll tell the parents in my district.
Senator Pekarsky.
Okay. You did say that you've talked to the superintendents on this bill. Are they supportive, or they're
Here, the answer is yes. I will tell you, the bill did not originate as one that affected the standards of learning. It was a direction that schools think about doing this in homeroom time. Highlander time is what it's called at McLean, which is when the school did it. They produced this 10-minute video. It's really pretty impressive. And it was then that the principals and the superintendents and the VEA and others came to me and said, no, this will only work if you put it in the standards of learning. So that's how the bill morphed. And had I know it was going to put me on, on a track with an oncoming freight train, I might have rethought about trying to accommodate their concerns. But in an effort to accommodate the superintendents and the principals' concerns,
Council might have found a way to square the circle. So
leave it to the lawyers.
We'll see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what I just did was as an example of something that sort of did this with Senator Boysko's hazing prevention training bill, where it directs the board to develop standards of learning and curriculum guidelines for that to integrate into the physical and health education provided at grades 9 and 10. Later on, it requires local school boards to provide instruction in accordance with those standards of learning. But then there is a final enactment clause that provides that each school board shall not begin incorporating or providing the actual hazing prevention instruction to students in accordance with the provisions of the Act until the school year following the Board of Education's adoption of the revised standards of learning for physical and health education for grades 9 and 10. So that could be one way to model the timeline without changing too much of the actual body or the statutory body of the bill.
So, Mr. Chair, what I hear council saying is that before the rewrite in 2009, there would be a suggestion that the board incorporate things and the local boards consider including them before the actual official change. Is that the did I get that right?
Mr. Chairman? So it would direct the board to, and sort of as Ryan said, it still sort of leaves silent exactly the timeline on which they would begin revising these, and it already requires the school boards to provide it, but then in the enactment clause, it says that they don't actually have to provide it until the board adopts those revised standards of learning. And so this would just be an easy amendment that would sort of create a more flexible timeline without messing with the actual statutory provision that you are creating in this bill through adding that enactment clause. So that when this does happen, the school boards would then be required to provide it in accordance with those standards of learning through physical and health education at those grade levels, but it wouldn't
require them to do that until then.
Not until then.
But it would suggest them that they could do it.
That one does, at the end of the second enactment clause, have a provision that requires the department prior to adopting those to develop and post on its website guidance documents for the purpose of making the prevention training available to local school boards. I still think that they
I like that.
It wouldn't, yeah, so it wouldn't, though, require, or there wouldn't even be any standards of learning available until the board adopted those and finished that process, but it sort of kicks the process off. This will happen, but it's not actually required to be provided until the board adopts those.
Fair enough. Mr. Chair, council suggests a reasonable compromise to which I am prepared to agree. I didn't scribble all that down, but I
okay.
bet council
So then,
can.
council, then first, would we need to strike lines 22 through 26 to do that? Okay. All right, so council, do you want to read the amendment in concept, I guess, to the committee so that we're all sure what we're doing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that amendment in concept would either immediately after that second enactment clause in lines 22 through 26, or switching the order and putting it in before and renumbering that second to 3, would be putting another final enactment clause that essentially directs each school board to begin providing this health education offered at grades 9 and 10, begin providing as a part of that this severe allergic reaction awareness training in accordance with the standards of learning for that developed by the board pursuant to the provisions of the bill, but not until the school year following the Board of Education's adoption of those the revised standards of learning for health education for grades 9 and 10 that incorporate, in accordance with the provisions of the bill, this severe allergic reaction awareness training, and then continuing modeling off of that the board shall post in the interim official guidance documents on its website for local school boards.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I have a motion.
Yep.
Move as amended to refer.
We gotta do the amendment first.
Okay, I move the amendment that second by law.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, now the bill's before us as amended.
Now I move as amended to refer.
Report. Recommend a report. All right, there's been a motion to recommend reporting as amended, House Bill 121. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And abstain. All right, 4-0 to 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee, and thank you, council.
All right.
Appreciate your creativity.
All right. Delegate Simons is up. Delegate Simons has 3 bills. So just go in order, I guess. You want to do 358 first?
Safe Sleep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill started out much broader, but after consulting with the Department of Ed, we realized that the voluntary safety checklist did not include safe sleep. And so the bill basically requires the Department of Ed to add safe sleep to this checklist, is what the bill does.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to report, and I'll second with locks.
There's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 358. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. House Bill 360.
All right, House Bill 360. I know you all are familiar with the JLARC report on school funding from the summer. One of the recommendations in this report, recommendation 16, asked that the Department of Education do a biannual calculation and report on the differences between the fixed staffing ratios and the standards of quality funding formula and the actual staffing ratios local school divisions use, so that the fixed staffing ratios can be regularly adjusted as needed. The idea behind this is to get data.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion.
Yep.
I move to report. And
there's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 360. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next up, House Bill 599.
All right. 599, unexpended local funds. I had the privilege of being on the Commission for School Construction and Modernization, where we talked a lot about how we could help localities accumulate the funds they need to rebuild crumbling school infrastructure. It's like trying to find dollars under your couch for localities. And so this idea was discussed to allow localities to designate unspent funds, like end-of-year funds that are not state funds, local funds, and accumulate those funds in a capital reserve fund for future school construction, and it is a permissive bill. It would just allow localities to work together to create these capital reserve funds.
Is there anybody that wanted to speak to this bill either way, pro or con?
Mr. Chair, Shane Riddle with the Virginia Education Association. We support this bill. It's recommendation 16 of the JLAC report.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Pat Finner, representing Newport News Schools and Falls Church City Public Schools. We are turning over all the couches in our school divisions to try to find the change for these buildings. We definitely support this bill. We think it's just a smart bill. It allows us to aggregate funds over time instead of having to spend smaller amounts and not get as much bang for the buck. So thank you for your support on this. Thank you.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 599. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, easy enough.
Thank you, committee.
All right, next up is Delegate Cohen. We're going to take a 2-minute, go at ease for 2 minutes. All right, so Delegate Cohen's got two bills. We'll start, I guess, with House Bill 501. Take it away.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to present here. 501 requires any division-wide or public elementary or secondary school-specific school building evacuation plan, policy, or protocol to include provisions that seek to maximize the opportunity for students with mobility impairments to evacuate the school building alongside their non-mobility impaired peers. Currently, school systems are left to figure out evacuation plans for disabled students whose classrooms are located on the second floor of school buildings. I know, as you guys saw with Delegate Campbell's bill earlier, fire safety and fire code in schools is probably something we all need to have a conversation about next session. But many systems here in Virginia utilize the FISA room, which is a fire evacuation staging area, meaning that students are left with staff on these second floor rooms while their peers safely evacuate the buildings. This bill came as a result of testimony given in front of our county SEAC from the elementary school parents of a student in a wheelchair. The National Fire Protection Association released a report in November of 2022 detailing several evacuation methods for folks with mobility issues, and this bill would allow localities to choose any of the options available to them, but would ask that they prioritize procedures where all students are evacuated. There was not a FIS associated with this. We've been grateful to be supported by the Fire Chiefs Association and also by the Department of Education.
Is there anybody that wants to speak in favor or against? Senator Pekarsky.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move to report, and I'll second with locks.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 501. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next up, House Bill 508.
House Bill 508 allows VDOE to make a substitute pool for child care center staffing throughout Virginia. There are about 2,000 child care centers, and 80% of those have fewer than 20 employees. When staff are absent, directors do their best to figure out how to maintain coverage for the day, but often it means classrooms have to close early, or some classrooms have to be closed for the day, leaving working parents scrambling. HB 508 would allow VDOE to designate a child care staffing service to work with communities to temporarily fill child care vacancies. In other states, the staffing service processes background checks for people who want to work in the substitute pool. Substitute service provides training, basic health and safety, CPR, first aid, and once the department clears the individual to work in child care, then the substitute can be deployed to child care centers participating in the subpool, meaning there's no surprise closures and missed work for parents.
Is there anybody that wants to speak in favor?
Matt Benedetti with the Virginia Child Care Association. This is a tremendous idea. We strongly support this bill.
I'm not even paying him.
Someone is.
Hello, Child Care Aware Virginia, Angela Wirt, Executive Director. We've worked for several years with VDOE and partners across the state to build this subpool model to address the staffing crisis in child care. And the biggest hurdle to enacting this system has been the background check process, the clearance process. It's one of the child care business's biggest hurdles, as we mentioned earlier. This bill would allow us to eliminate that barrier and create a pool of readily approved child care staff that are screened and trained to fill the vacancies created by staff illnesses and unexpected departures that plague the industry. And staffing shortages, continue to mean that classrooms are sitting empty and that children are still having to be turned away from programs. So a subpool would really offer programs the buffer that they need to properly train and onboard qualified staff, and would really help stabilize the workforce. That's what we feel a subpool system would do, and this bill is a major step in helping us realize that goal. We ask for your support. Thank you.
Jenna Conway, Deputy Superintendent, Early Childhood Care and Education. We support the bill and we stand by, ready to implement it.
Okay. Anybody against? All right. Senator Pekarsky.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank the patron for answering my questions about this bill yesterday, and I move to report second with Senator Locke's.
There's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 508. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes 5-0.
Thanks very much, appreciate it.
All right, we are down to the last three. So Delegate Saren Vossen, you are up next with House Bill 919.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. HB 919 directs the Virginia Department of Education in consultation with DBHDS and DMAS to develop, adopt, and distribute to each school board a model memorandum of understanding between a school board and nationally recognized school-based telehealth providers that sets parameters for the provision of mental health teletherapy in public schools. Currently, Virginia law only requires a MOU between a school board and a public or private community health care provider and does not include telemental health. This bill is permissive. It requires the school board increase the accessibility of school-based mental health services for students that allow school boards to decide whether they will adopt the policies and procedures outlined in the MOU. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. So I'll just real quick follow up and just say this is essentially making it so that schools have the ability to use telehealth counseling.
Yes. Yes. Second.
There's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 919. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, 5-0.
Thank you.
You convinced us.
Thank you so much.
All right, next up is Delegate Early. Someone has to be last.
He's only been here for a couple hours.
House Bill 963.
Afternoon. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for having me. This is House Bill 963. Simple bill meant to minimize food waste and minimize community hunger at the same time. What we know is there's a significant amount of food waste at our schools. This bill basically just asks the Department of Education to survey each school board and school division to see what policy or procedure they have in place currently, to see what they're doing, if anything, for the donation of excess food to either food banks or community shelters, that sort of thing. And then essentially compile a guidance document. So fairly minimal. I don't think there's a heavy hand here, but hopefully some low-hanging fruit, no pun intended, just so we can improve and make sure we're not tossing away food we don't need to be. So I'm sure you all already know this, but as of 2021, Virginia's food insecurity rate was around 8%, which meant around 704,000 people had to worry about where their next meal was going to come from on any given day, and 164,000 of that number was children. So the USDA already has some efforts on this, so this initiative would just align with their broader efforts, and I would hope that just a simple collaborative approach here can get us in a better position, and I just see this as a good way to be stewards of our food resources. So happy to answer any questions, but I appreciate the committee's time.
Does anybody want to speak on this bill? Senator Craig.
Yes. I just want to thank the delegate for bringing this forward. I volunteered at primary schools years ago when I was on the PTA and involved, and I would feed them breakfast, and there would be milks left over and cereal and all of this stuff, and I would say, what are we doing with it? And they would say, it just goes in the refrigerator in the teacher's lounge. And I was like, wow, we could be donating this, and it's good food, and so I'm really excited about this bill, so I'm definitely going to support it, and I move to report.
There's been a motion and a second. I'm going to real quickly speak to that motion. I'm going to renew my concern about the DOE and its reports because I'm still waiting on one from 18 months ago. And so for that reason, I'm going to vote no. It's nothing against the bill.
Sure.
It's that I'm worried about the backlog. So there's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 963. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. So that motion is 2-3 on the recommend to report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The last we haven't, that got taken by. All right, we have one last bill, and the patron's not here, but I would ask the indulgence. Couldn't be here. I said that we could take it up, and as long as everyone's okay with it, we could just pass it out. That's House Bill 131, Delegate Converse Fowler's bill. And this is a bill that's the department's already doing, so this is just asking them to extend what they are already doing. And so 131. And so I'll give everybody a second to look at it, and if there's any, if anybody has a concern, we can pass it by, but otherwise I figured we could just vote it up, down. Okay, okay. All right. There's a motion to report, there's a second. There's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting House Bill 131. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that's 5-0. And then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
All right, before we adjourn,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Senator.
I comment. I see some of our education people back there. But how y'all could let us just go through a docket? How many bills do we have?
23.
23 dockets, and we just ordered out of 23 of those bills, probably 15 to 18 or 19 of them to order school boards, Department of Education, teachers, somewhere else to do something. And we did not extend the school week or the days in the week or anything like that. It's interesting. I can't wait to see how it all works out.
Senator Peake, I share your concerns and hope that we will stop this. So with that, we will adjourn.
Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.